One shot at a time.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another week of Enjoy the Walk podcast. This one is regionally local to both Dante and I. We have Laura Heinen from the Delaware State Golf Association. Laura, we are super excited to talk not only Delaware State Golf, but the recent acquisition of the partnership, I should say, between GAP, which Dante, you play GAP matches all spring long, and the Delaware State Golf. So, Laura, really excited for you to join us and talk shop. How has Delaware State Golf been over this long winter?
Yeah, happy to be back with you guys. Golf in general is doing awesome right now, so it's fun to be along for the ride. So all of our clubs are doing great. Membership is really through the roof. We're seeing private clubs with waiting lists and ridiculously full tee sheets at public courses if you try to find something like same day or even like for the weekend. So it's fun to be along for the ride. Tournament golf is obviously kind of a subsection of that in the DSGA and the GAP world. But it's fun to be in the industry right now, no question.
Yeah, Dante and I were having some conversations with an assistant pro down in my area in Ocean City, just kind of talking about some of the recent news of courses kind of going back private because they're finally able to fill out that membership, which I think is, a catch-22. Yes, we love seeing more golf, but dang, we can't get on that as a public golfer anymore if we wanted to get on some of these higher end, nicer clubs. But definitely golf game in general in an incredibly good spot for activity.
Yep. And like you said, running tournaments is great until you have to put people on a wait list and tell them they can't play. So everything has, pros and cons.
Yeah. And I'll be interested to see as we get into more of this conversation, what that means for not only DSGA, but GAP as well. And how that partnership can maybe help alleviate some of that issue and how it might even maybe cause some more issue depending on where you're at geographically.
Sure.
Well, yeah, let's dive into that right off the bat. I know March 1st they came out with the announcement saying GAP has entered into the partnership. Off the cuff, what does that mean, right? Like, what does that mean for someone who was playing Delaware State golf events in the previous year, and what are they maybe able to do now that they weren't able to do this past year?
Sure. Yeah. So, in general, a DSGA member, just to get that definition, straight out of the gate, that is a person that has a GIN handicap that is active at their home club. So if you are playing public golf, private golf, man, woman, junior, doesn't matter. If your handicap is active at a member club, you were a member of DSGA and had eligibility for events. So similar concept in GAP, Maryland State Golf Association, New Jersey. So really all that means is that now your DSGA membership is essentially a GAP membership and vice versa. So any person on a GAP member club roster could play in a DSGA event, and any DSGA member could go up and play in a GAP event, provided, age, handicap, gender, all of those criteria are met as well.
Awesome. Well, I know, Dante, for you who have kind of started your year out like you start every year, playing GAP state team events. That's kind of cool for you to see maybe what you can get yourself in. I know you have a significant other in the Delaware area, so maybe you can float your way on down and play in some more Delaware events over the summer.
Yeah, I'm actually pumped about that, to be honest, seeing that, because I feel like Delaware State alone, when it comes to their golf courses, is just so under the radar of how good they really are. And it's amazing to see. But what's kind of crazy too, and like one of my biggest questions is, you had GAP. They eventually merged with AGA, which is the Northeast Pennsylvania sector. Now they had the DSGA. I mean, GAP is absolutely massive because it stretches all the way up to, correct me if I'm wrong, stretches all the way up to the Northeast Pennsylvania side, up towards Scranton, all the way down to like southern Delaware, Maryland border where Dalton you're at. And from my knowledge, it even stretches out to the Hershey, Harrisburg area. So when it comes to like one of my favorite participations in GAP events, mainly is what's going on currently is the BMW team matches. Now, your transition into being affiliated with Gap, I mean, how does that work? Where, I mean, you've seen all the sections, you've seen all the divisions. How does that work where the whole idea is to kind of, it's like we said before we, hit record, was the camaraderie and being able to play other courses that you may not step foot on. But how does that strategy go into who plays who, and how do you section that off?
So team matches are the only thing that DSGA members don't have access to this year
Oh,
because there's just too many details. So for the clubs that
it's a
are
lot.
participating, the registration for that process with your club and with your golf professional, that starts in October of the previous year. So we just didn't have a chance at that this year, and that's fine. So this year we're doing all the education and getting everyone up to speed on what it actually means to throw a team in, as far as your tee sheet on the weekends, how many guys you need to convince to play golf, whether it's 45 degrees and windy or whether it's
Ugh.
70 and sunny. So just making sure everybody knows what they're signing up for. But I will say I watched some of the process in the office with the tournament department as they figure out. Obviously, AA is all based on your record, and you've kind of earned your spot up in that division. But then as you move down all the way to D and E, most of those are regionally based. So you've got two options, or like two criteria that they try to meet, and it is that it's a regional kind of group of teams. So you're driving distance. You're not going from Bayside down by Dalton all the way up to Scranton. And then the second criteria is that you would not compete against a team that you've played in the last 3 years. So they really do put a lot of time into it to try to get you those, that opportunity to play clubs you've never seen, play against people you would otherwise probably not meet. So there is still that element of, I guess, care and thought process into the lower divisions as well. And so they do have a lot of charts. It looks like a very elaborate, like, draft day kind of scenario with a lot of printing and a lot of like giant whiteboard stuff going on. So it is thorough for sure.
I can only imagine, because I go on pretty frequently. I got friends that are at other clubs, that I got friends that are on. I mean, I'm over down at Running Deer in Pittsgrove, southern New Jersey. It's about maybe 35, 40 minutes towards like the shore. It's in the middle of nowhere. We have 4 teams. So I mean, it's a lot, and it's 12-man rosters to each team, which is pretty kind of wild, because and then I have friends that I've met through, playing. Like, I'll tell you again, like one of ours, a team that I was talking about was Pennsauken. Met the guy I played against. Basically, we linked numbers. Now we're going to play in each other's weekends games, which is great. And that's what I think, like, the whole factor of it. But I can only imagine how much detail and strategy and just coordination goes into, because just going, I mean, you can go on the website and just see kind of all the teams in each, because it goes by division in each section, and there's 4 teams to each section, and there's like 15 to 20 sections when you get down like past like the B division, like into the C and down below, on how many
I'm
clubs
running
there are.
the math. I might be a couple off because this is a big number here, but I believe there's 385 teams. Obviously, some clubs have more than one team. Like you said, you've got 4. But if you take 385 by 12 guys, that's 4,620 players that could be teeing it up, any given Sunday here in the spring. So that alone is, I mean, that's what we're all about. So whether that's the last division in E or whether it's those guys up in AA, I mean, that's just pretty cool to think about.
Oh, and it is really cool to think about too, Dante. You were talking the vastness just a little bit earlier of how widespread that gap kind of coverage is now. In the article that was written and announced, they noted saying that now they have officially over 90,000 golfers registered under that kind of umbrella of what is Gap. So that's just incredible to see. Not only Delaware now a part of that, but just even before Delaware was a part of it, we always used to talk about how big or how widespread the Gap area was, especially in the metropolitan areas like Philadelphia and like the surrounding New Jersey's area. It's just cool to know that they're the driving force between men and women teeing it up for competitive reasons, and then just for everyday reasons to log rounds under the Gap umbrella.
Yep, it's definitely over 90,000, which we've seen some growth over COVID these past couple years. Not just because Delaware was added to the total, but even other things like you've got this new e-club that the USGA is pushing. That's getahandicap.usga.org. It's never been easier to get a handicap so that you can go out and play with your buddies and, play for $5 or whatever and try to make it a little bit more fair to track your putts, whatever you want to do. But $25 is all it takes. That makes you a Gap member. Then you can play in whatever you meet the eligibility for.
And that's awesome. Have you seen an uptick in those e-members in competitive events now that that's been kind of readily available?
Not yet. It's something that we're tracking at this point. A lot of those folks we're seeing are coming from like a corporate environment where it's like an after work league or, hey, my friend wants me to play in as member guest. So a lot of it is more just trying to check that box or like, oh, I'm going on my dad's trip to, San Diego and they told me I need a handicap. All right, like we gotcha, like you're fine. So then once people see it and then they start getting the emails and, then they might play in a Frozen Friday or then they might go play in a member play day with Gap, then they kind of see all of the options that they have available.
Yeah, I definitely, Dante, it's funny. My dad, for the longest time after he stopped working at a golf course, just kind of lost his handicap. He didn't register anywhere. He wasn't a member anywhere. And he got introduced to this kind of e-club format because he travels around with a bunch of retirees and plays different golf courses every Wednesday. And now he's got the whole group convinced that the e-club is the way to go because they can just travel around from place to place and log their rounds, online and do it that way. So I think the upside for this e-club, option is really, really high as far as getting people involved in the game that might have had reservations on how to do it beforehand.
And for many folks, the old programs, they had some different rules as far as, what you were eligible for. This new version is totally zip code based. So if you are in the Gap e-club, you live in a Gap zip code or a Delaware zip code as well. So it is purely based. If you said, hey, I live in Maryland 219, whatever it might be, then you would be pushed to MSGA. So it all funnels to the right spot.
I love that too. You don't want Dante trying to play in the MSGA events and travel in 3 hours there and back.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed.
Yeah, we know there's plenty of folks that have figured out ways.
I know it's crazy because I got a lot of like our lower handicap guys in my club. I mean, they play in all like the 4 majors, the Mid Am, the Philadelphia Am, like all the, I guess you can quote unquote the majors that Gap likes to call, and they're constantly traveling because you got to do the qualifiers, and they're driving upwards to an hour and a half to 2 hours just because they either know that course or they're like, this is, since like you said, there's so much participation that they said this is the only qualifier that they can get in by the time they've signed up, because when those registrations open for the qualifier, I think we actually have one at our course. It's sold. It's full.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think it was 24 hours, and it was full.
Yeah, a lot of them, obviously the member play days are ones that fill quickly for a different audience. But then if there's a qualifier on a good day or at a good site, obviously it fills faster than a lot of people would imagine.
It's exciting times for not only the game, but just like locally within the Delaware region as well. Laura, speak specifically to what the Delaware State Golf Association does have going on as far as putting on competitions for this up and coming year, and maybe how the merger has maybe aided to just the notoriety of some of these events.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I mean, for me, I was a staff of one with a couple summer interns, so I've got backup. I'm on a staff of 20 now, which is awesome. So you'll see more staff. You won't always see me, which is okay. So I will take the occasional day off or, be in the office when it's, necessary. But what we're really trying to do with the DSGA schedule is move some of the member play days, events that we would run onto that schedule if it felt more like that. And then, keep our championships in a category on their own to really differentiate, when you show up to a more serious or major event. And the tournaments that are more just, there's still a competition, but it's not all about, the trophy at the end, the 27-hole challenge or the spring classic that we had a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, that's all ages, all handicaps, flighted, so it appeals to a different audience. But really, just trying to up the majors, make that more prestigious and a better experience for the player, and then still just catering to our Frozen Friday guys. They have certain things that they want to see, and make sure that we keep appealing to whatever audience we're targeting.
I've always loved that about not only what you guys do in Delaware, but even Maryland State Golf seems to put on a lot of these fun-filled events as well. They don't just put on the Open, the Am, the Mid-Am, the more serious kind of, lock in and load kind of rounds. They put on the fun matches too to get everybody involved. I think it's a really cool atmosphere that just brings more people into just getting together at different golf courses week in and week out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the Spring Classic, the 27-hole challenge in the fall at Bear Trap Dunes is probably my favorite event of the entire year, as much as I love our championships. But the fact that you've got pros bringing out, a member from their club, or you've got some of these guys that are now in their 70s and 80s that are telling me, hey, we've played in this event for the past 25 years. Days like that, it's really fun to just see the whole crowd out together with, 160 people teeing it up. So it's fun to be in charge of those days.
I can only imagine. Yeah, those days come out and you almost don't want them to end. They're just too much fun.
Oh, they can end by the time we're done. That's fine. But it's just a lot of fun to have everybody out together.
For sure. Now, it's like I said, it's always cool to see you guys cater to both ends of the golfing spectrum. And as a state-run organization, I feel like when I was growing up, there was just a lot of the Am or the Open, and that was it, right? Like that's all the state organizations catered to. So to see the flexibility in that schedule and those kind of fun-filled offerings is just really neat to see and to continue to build each and every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also a fun way to showcase our clubs. Because not every course needs to be played from the tips or with hard hole locations. So it is fun. Some courses are better played from further up. So it makes you target a different landing zone or just play the course a different way when you're playing alternate shot or, doing something with a partner as opposed to just being in charge of your own ball.
And I'm actually looking at so if you go to the GAP website, you can actually see like it's separated. You have all the competitions, but you can separate it between DSGA, AGA, and GAP. And I'm actually just like scrolling around here, and it's actually kind of funny because, like you said, that it showcased courses that you may not be able to get on, or it also provides more opportunity for those willing to want to play in more events. And actually, there's courses like Deerfield, there's courses like Rock Manor, there's Newark Country Club. Like those are actually closer to me than some of the Pennsylvania and Jersey courses that we would have to travel to. Which, again, I think that's like such a great move on DSGA's part, and just kind of under this big umbrella because one, like you said, you got what 4,000 players just in the right. BMW team event. I mean, right there, 90,000 players already that have opportunity to play competition golf, and it's just opening the door for more competition play, which I think Dalton and Dalton would agree is something we like to do, but we actually need to do more of, because when we just step up on the first tee, at the end of the day, we're like, what did we just get ourselves into?
Some nerves are good and some other nerves are just absolutely disastrous. And Dante and I both over the last few months have realized we have the more disastrous nerves than the good nerves.
Yeah. Coming off a match play this morning, there were some moments on the green where I'm like, I don't know what that was, but let's forget about that and we'll move on. So.
Laura, we can all feel you there. I know that. Well, if people want to go out and obviously now part of the GAP and DSGA together, if they want to go out and become a part of anything that you guys are putting on this year, what's the best way to go find out to read more about not only the merger, but then just to be a part of the Delaware State Golf Association?
Mm-hmm. So either website, gapgolf.org or dsga.org are still up and running. So you've got tournament schedules. Like Dante said, they are broken out by category. So you can kind of filter out and say, okay, I'm a senior, I'm a woman, I'm looking for my junior golfer, whatever the case may be. Or I live up in Scranton, I want nothing to do with Southern Delaware, that's fine. So we've got options for anybody that wants to travel or not. But again, all it takes is to have an active gin handicap, either at a green grass facility that is a GAP or DSGA member club, which I think that number is like 330 clubs total. That might be a little bit outdated, but that is everything in the GAP region, AGA, some of Southern Jersey, and then of course Delaware now as well. So just get that gin handicap. And if you don't feel like going to a green grass facility, you've got getahandicap.usga.org. So as long as you live in a zip code that funnels to GAP, then you're in. So that $25 does not put you on a GAP team for the spring, but it pretty much gives you eligibility for anything else on the Delaware calendar or otherwise. So plenty of ways to find your way into the system.
I love it. It seems like as long as you've got $25, you can find your way into a Delaware or GAP event this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard of this one yet. GAP partnered with the Workhorse Tour, which is based with Workhorse Brewery, but they actually are hitting the public golf arena in a new way where their events are like week long. So like say Rock Manor, I'm not sure which week they have, but if you sign up for the tour and then you play golf during that week and post your score, then you're entered in that competition over that stretch of days. So based on your
we don't want to let the cat out of the bag entirely, but we've got some fun summer events planned with the Workhorse Brew Tour as well. So
awesome.
we'll definitely be up in that neck of the woods and hanging out with those guys as they put on some events. So yeah, they're doing some fun things with just like you said, the public golf sector as well.
Yeah, but they've got their handicap included in the membership as well. So I think at last count, they had over 500 members that are just adding to that GAP community. So that also makes you eligible for GAP and DSGA events too. So we might see some Workhorse Tour handicaps coming up on the leaderboards for events this season, which is great.
I love it. I absolutely love it. If there's a will, there's a way to play. So guys, get out there, figure it out. If you need help, contact Laura. She's the go-to woman down here in the Delaware area. And obviously with part of GAP now, just an absolute powerhouse team behind her as well. So Laura, again, appreciate the time. It's been fun talking the merger and what Delaware's got coming up for golf this summer.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Awesome. And guys, as always, you can go to www.enjoythewalkpod.com to check out the latest podcasts from us, as well as the latest YouTube videos, as well as merchandise drops from us. Wear our merch this summer, maybe in some Delaware State golf events as well. But as always, guys, get out there, carry your clubs, and enjoy the walk.
That's the stuff. One shot.